Welcome back everybody, and today we've got another thrilling installment of Make It Up As You Go Along. And today we're going to play with a few different materials and approaches. First off, we are looking at trying to do something different. A icy pole stick, and this one came off a Magnum or something equivalent, and it just seemed to be about the right dimensions to fit neatly onto a small base. So all it required was that it get cut to size and then slightly fatigued, just using the craft knife to grind some grooves in it to create the look of boards, and then just using a little pin vise to drill some holes just to give it a bit more sort of damage and patina, and then coming in with just a sort of base coat of sort of a beige, and then coming over the top of that with just a burnt umber ink, and that colors it up very much wood-like, and the ink tends to sit in the grooves and gives it a sort of a realistic appearance. And following that, we decided, okay, now's our time to play with the little crypt bearing dude. And we wanted to make him look as dead as possible, and the exercise was to warm up the dead. And it was a case of playing around with a combination of colors to try and get sort of a dead hue, something bluey, bit of green that gives it the impression of, well, it's the undead type thing. And playing around with quite a few of the contrast paints, I was able to create a tealy, bluey, greeny tinge, which I used as a base coat. Now, our little fella here, we first undercoated in black and gave him a very pathetic effort of doing a zenithal highlight. We didn't want to go too crazy with the white, so he's more a spattered grey, but it was a case of keeping him dark and moody, and then applying the speed paint onto the top of that. Now, it was diluted reasonably as well to make it quite thin. We're not trying to go for a concentrated color, instead looking to at least just add some coloration to the skin. Similarly with the hair on the back, which is more blue tonings. So we're going green for the skin, blue for the hair. And while we had the blue out, we just put a little bit on the blade just to muck around. No idea what I'm doing, to be perfectly honest, but we're just trialing this, so it's a bit of an exercise in experimentation. And now we're going to bring in some purple and mix that with the leftover green to create some wacky color, which has a bluey purpley kind of tinge to it, and then put it over the top. Because why not? But it seems like if you watch a few videos, generally purples make a good base color. It brings some life or warmth back into the character, and so again, liberally applying that all over the little guy so it sits, as speed paints tend to do, in the recesses to add that purple hue. So just slather all over his head and everything else, and hopefully once this is all done, he'll have that foundation that we're looking for, upon which we can then build. So coming in with the green and the dead flesh, the idea now is to put that rigor mortis on top and definitely make him look kind of dead. So we've given him I've got a touch of life with the purple and the green, and now we're coming in and we're just going to sort of highlight certain areas. So we're not slathering it everywhere. We're just going to apply it progressively and let it pool a little bit. Again, most of the time these things are thinned down a fair bit, so they're more like a wash, less likely to stuff up, that being the case, rather than going in with solid colors. And we are mixing an acrylic paint with a speed paint, and clearly by putting it on this wet, it is also going to mix with the base color to a degree. So it's going to mobilize some of that because it's speed paint 1.0. And we'll see what sort of murky effect we get going on there. And nothing says dead quite like effectively necrosis of the skin. So putting black on the end parts of the body, so his feet and hands, just gives him that more of a, well, I'm falling apart and decaying rapidly look. So something a little bit different. Then going in with the dead flesh again, but this time mixing it with a little bit of green to just add a bit more murk and slime to the character. So we're just realistically adding up a series of layers one upon the other, and they're all building. We're not putting complete coats on. We're really just trying to make it a mottled mess. The reason being that if he's decaying, it's not going to be equal all over, so we're trying to get that patchy, I'm not feeling so well look to the skin, and obviously just being a bit more precise in areas like around the face, and adding a bit of texture where we can depending upon how we apply it. And that will build up hopefully that appearance of half dead and still kicking. And you can see there that we've got some of that green coming through that just looks a bit weird and murky. He just looks like an absolute mess. He looks like a bruised corpse, and that was really what I was going for, but I didn't know quite how to get to it because I used about 27 different colors. But in the end it sort of worked well. As I said, this is a bit of experimentation. So now we're going in with some beige. So mixing some of the burnt umber with some pale colour. And we're just going to apply a little bit to his loincloth just to keep all the colours muted, not looking for anything too strong or contrasty. And just dabbing that on again to create some form of linear texture. I will go in afterwards and then put some weathering, fatiguing on there, but it was just a matter of blopping it on and then spreading it out to create some base tones over the zenithal that we can see. Again, trying to keep it all dark. Also using the same mix on any of the bone fragments that are projecting out of his body or on the sword, and then go in with just a little bit lighter over the top to provide a bit of highlighting. Similarly, we thought, well, he's not going to have white teeth now, is he? He's half dead and decaying. So a little bit of yellow just to start with as a base for the teeth, and using the straight burnt umber for leather strapping, for like bandages in this instance, assuming it's leather, on the leg, and just adding a bit of coloration, which will then go in and add a lot of color over the top as well. Again, just to sort of highlight some of those things, but just being sort of irregular with the application because we're trying to create that feel. Adding a bit of red to the eyes makes it look like he's hemorrhaging, so we also did that around any other openings in the skin, like where the bones stick out, that sort of thing. And now we're mixing blue and a pinky color to produce a bluey purple, because why not? That seems like a good color for hair. Again, it's sort of like a nighttime kind of indigo kind of thing that we're going for, and just diluting that as inks and applying that onto the bluey hair that we've got there, and that's going to mix a little bit because of the blue speed paint mobilizing slightly, and that sort of warms it up a little bit, makes it a bit more grey. And then we need to come in and got myself some Slanesh grey, so I thought, okay, it's pinky grey, add that as a bit of dry brushing over the top, but we want to take a little bit further because you can never have too many colours on a model apparently. So doing that, we've gone in now with the rust grey just for highlighting on some of the finer points, just on the ends, and ultimately then coming in after we've done that and detailing just the tips. So we're just going to point highlight with base white, just those little tips to give it that little bit of a pop, just on the kind of the strands at the end. And that's pretty much the hair on the back of his body mostly done. So now it's just finishing off some of the detailing. We want a corroded sword, so a bit of burnt umber to emulate a rust sort of coloration across the sword, and then go in with lead belcher to add a little bit of brightness to the sword itself and make it look a bit metallic, and then brighten it up with the absolute highlights with some Stormhorse silver just to give it that bling, make it look like there's at least a few sharp edges on it that's bright. And there we have our little undead crypt dweller, and at the end of the day he doesn't look too bad. Greenish is kind of the primary color that you seem to see on his body. You can see it is very murky. Now what I could have done is gone in with my go-to method of just get a wash and cover the whole model just to blend it all in and make it uniform, but in this instance I kind of liked how he finished up with that model appearance, because like I said, he's looking half dead. So hopefully you enjoyed this, and we'll be able to do some more of these in the future. Thanks for watching, and see you in the next one.